All right. Happy Friday. Do we get a SkyTrain today on YouTube? No, bad timing. We're a minute late, but we are here for the Canucks Conversation delivered by the great folks at DoorDash.
Ding dong.
That's what I'm talking about. Hard promo code ConvoDD, capital D's, capital C, ConvoDD, 25% off and free delivery on your first order with the DoorDash app. You must have used DoorDash this morning for a coffee, Harm. That's a nice little, that's a good ding dong there.
Yeah, I mean, I had someone call me out. I didn't have enough energy, and when you're paid the big bucks, you gotta come through. I got one job. Yeah, I gotta do it right.
That's true. I think we got you on the wrong webcam down there as well. Just so you
really,
know. Yeah, tough angle there for you. Well, you can work with that. Surprised Alex hasn't yelled at you about it. All right, Fridays with Harm, brought to you by the great folks at Zephyr Epic.
Not gonna lie, I can't even tell the quality difference.
Oh, it looks fine. Looks fine for me. You get a little bit of the view outside, which is kind of nice. Fridays with Harm, brought to you by the great folks, Zephyr Epic. Check them out, zephyrepic.com, for the Pokemon, the Magic card, the Yu-Gi-Oh, and the sports cards as well. The sports cards, we love them. I got a good one today. Promo code Hockey Season, by the way. That's our promo code. Capital H, capital S, Hockey Season for $5 off your order and free shipping throughout Canada. I got this one called the Photo Driven Elias Pettersson card. You can see this on YouTube here. Pretty cool looking card. Kind of changes I don't even know how to say it. It's kind of it's like one of those different view of the light hits it. It's got some shine to it.
It's cool.
It's a nice looking card. Harm. We got to quickly touch on pickleball because we're missing a week. We're missing our weekend thing. This has quickly become our favorite thing of the week. I know we both say this.
Yeah.
Like, I think we both said this in the car going in. It's becoming our favorite thing. And last weekend, you and I, as a pairing, picked up our first wins too, because we walked in and we talked about this on the show before. We got whooped by Pam and Ann in our first week, 11-2. But you and I now, we've picked up the game. We're rolling a little bit. We got our first win as a pair last weekend. I know it's been like 5 days since then, but I'm still riding the high.
We're unstoppable, and I'll tell you this: the seniors better watch out. The young guns are here, and we're giving it to them. I mean, even in the last couple of games, there, the guy that was teaching us the first day,
right?
I mean, I think in that game, one of them I played with you and we beat Anthony. Mm-hmm. And then in the second one, we weren't together and we whooped him 11-2. So it's like, the student has become the master, or whatever the saying is,
Yeah.
So
we're rolling a little bit. And you and I were playing good as a team. I think I might have thrown my back out. There's one point I jumped really quick to react to the ball. I've been feeling it ever since. So taking a weekend off here isn't going to be bad, because the weekend that I have to deal with this weekend, no pickleball, but instead I'm off to Saskatchewan. I leave tonight for Saskatchewan. I think like like on the weather app, it shows the degrees of like the temperature, but then it also says this is what it feels like.
Yeah.
I think it's like feeling like minus 28 right now. So, but the day that I leave, it like cranks up to like minus 35. So like my fiance, she's staying for a couple extra days. We're going to see the parents off in Saskatoon. And there's this guy on TikTok that I've seen who's been ranking the top chicken fingers in Saskatoon. He's got 24 different like episodes of ranking the top chicken fingers. So I went through. I'm going to watch through a lot of them and see what he's given like the highest rank. And I got to go try these chicken fingers. Whichever one he's given like the best rating to, that's the one I got to go check.
That's a must.
I think so too.
We're also going to get banned from the community center we going. Like we got to stop terrorizing this 50 plus folk.
No, but that's the other thing. Some of them are like some of the old folk, the way they hit it there. I played with a guy the other day. He was in his 80s.
Yeah.
And it looked like he was going to fall over every time he moved, but he could hit it. He could hit it so good. Like,
we need to find younger people, man.
Yeah, I know. Maybe we do, but we're still not at that level yet. Like, we're still just barely.
From week 1 to 3, we went from barely being able to hold the paddle to like, so anyway.
We're rolling a little bit at this point.
We're graduating.
Yeah. Okay, Lisa's asking, or no, Knucklehead in the chat. You guys got this. Everybody's got the Quinn Hughes face still in their thing. This is what is watermelon on the shirt? Little watermelons, not hot dogs. Yep, Knucklehead, you figured it out there. And Lisa, for the holidays, we are taking, I think, just Boxing Day off, the Monday. Aside from that, the way that it falls, like New Year's Eve is like on the weekend, I believe, and Christmas as well. You could correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, but we're only taking one day off throughout Christmas because everything's on the weekend. So, and Harm, you're getting some shout-outs in the chat as well. Can't even lie, Harman's beard looks top-notch. So maybe the angle that you got from the laptop is a little bit better.
It must be the angle, must be the lighting or something, because I haven't trimmed this thing in a while. So
I got mine done yesterday too, which is funny because I'm fresh off the beard cut, and you're the one getting props for yours. So fair enough. let's dive into the
He's
Canucks.
got
Okay.
that. We're looking up to him. You know, we're looking up at him.
This is a beard spotlight.
He's looking down at his audience. He did this on purpose. I saw he didn't want the quads cam. He wanted his own cam.
It's fair. I could show Harm how to do it real quick, but I know that there's some frustration in your voice, Alex, because of this camera situation. I could tell as the producer. Like, I knew you were going to chime in here pretty early.
I plugged the webcam into the computer, so it should automatically do it. I don't know.
Yeah, no. Alex, anything to say here? What's going on?
I'm okay with it. I mean, okay. What's the chat say? What do they want?
Chat likes it.
I sense a little angst in your voice.
Spam W.
Yeah. All right, let's get to it. Pierre LeBrun had an article. I believe it came out today. Might have been late last night. This morning.
Today.
All right. Interesting kind of targeting and talking about the Bo Horvat contract. And honestly, the big takeaway from it, I think, is looking at what the return might be or what the target return might be for Bo Horvat, who obviously scoring at a ridiculous rate right now, playing in the Canucks top 6, being a very important piece down the middle for this team. He could also be a very important piece down the middle for a team competing for a Stanley Cup this season, which I don't think the Canucks are at right now, because what I wanted to discuss is retool versus rebuild. And from what we heard from some of the stuff in the article there from Pierre LeBrun, and by the way, check it out on The Athletic right now. You have a promo code, right, Harm? Get some promo codes over there. You have your own, don't you?
I don't actually.
No, what you do is, though, you click a Harman Dayal article, and then that's you subscribe from there.
And wait, and if you haven't signed up yet, just wait for pretty sure there'll be an end of year sale around like Boxing Day.
Boxing Day. Okay. Yeah. Well, I've seen it's like $1 a month right now, anyways. So what do they do? Were they paying you $1 to get the?
They're I don't think they're. I mean,
they're not paying you enough.
Just keep subscribing. That's all.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Round it up. Put you in a bad spot there. All right, I wanted to read one little paragraph from Pierre's article. That kind of, I think a lot of Canucks fans read this, and we saw the Taj tweet going around about it, of course. Let me just read this one out. This is from Pierre LeBrun in his latest article for The Athletic, talking about the Bo Horvat situation. He says, it seems that Vancouver is looking instead for more of a hockey deal to upgrade at center ice and a right shot defenseman, if possible, bringing a player in their 20-somethings age range. This Canucks management group has been focused on since coming on board. So, interesting look here, because listen, you're moving Bo Horvat for the way that Pierre wrote, an upgrade at center. I don't think you're finding that, obviously, but to me, it's weird here, because no matter what the case is, what you trade Bo Horvat for, you're not getting the best player out of the trade.
Of course.
You're taking a step back, and in my eyes, it's sort of like a slingshot move where you see how far you can pull back and maybe how far you want to go back with the prospects or draft picks. Are you looking for a guy in their young 20s? Are you looking for a guy in the teens that was just drafted? Are you looking for draft picks, players that have not even been drafted yet? That's what I think about when it's like a slingshot move of how far back do you want to go? Because I think the further back you go, the more value you might be able to get in the end if you do a good job drafting or a good job making a selection with a young prospect from a team's prospect pool. But I'm curious to get your thoughts on kind of Pierre's mentioning there of where the Canucks want to kind of target someone in the 20s, right? Somebody in their 20s that makes it sound more like a player that they're looking for here is more of a retool. And when I talk about retool, you could talk about like adding some younger players to that, sure. But also to this degree, I think in the way that Pierre reported it was like retooling the roster of looking for a right shot defenseman, looking for a different type of center. How do you kind of view the Canucks if they want to go that way? And we'll call it a retool that way. Retool versus rebuild. I think I know what we both would want them to do, but do you think they are seriously potentially going in this direction of just being like a retool, getting some different pieces, getting somebody in their mid-20s?
It concerns me, honestly, to see a report like that come out. And obviously it's just a rumor, but Pierre's as plugged in as it gets, especially with the Canucks. So it is a worry for me, because ultimately, I mean, first of all, I just want to make one point. And this is more a bit of a tangent, but the whole idea of, they want to make a hockey trade or they want to make a hockey deal, aren't all trades hockey deals? Like that term has never made sense to me. What, like if you want draft picks and prospects, this is now a basketball trade? Like what? But anyway, that's an aside. I think the idea of you want to target a player in the 20-something range, first of all, that doesn't really narrow it down. I think 80% of the league is probably somewhere in their 20s, but this signals to me anyway that they're looking for more of a, a player who can come in and help the lineup sooner rather than later. I think that's how they approached the JT Miller negotiations. And I think that's a part of the reason why the Canucks didn't get the package they wanted for Miller. And ultimately, I think you are always in a position where you're going to be sacrificing upside when you're targeting players who you're hoping are ready to play right away. Because think about it from the contender's perspective. If I'm interested in Bo Horvat and I have a talented young center or a talented young defenseman, why would I trade for Horvat if he's older, not cost controllable, and just a rental? It'd be nonsensical. I mean, imagine if the roles are reversed and the Canucks are looking at some 27-year-old rental, and yeah, he's top 10 in the league in goals right now, but they're saying you need to give up one of your, like, a 21-year-old stud player who's just on the cusp of making an NHL impact. You'd be like, no, that guy's going to help you this season and next, especially in the league where when you have to pay your top stars, you have to bank on young players on the ELCs being able to contribute right away, like the sort of role that Bo and Byron played on the Avs when they won their Stanley Cup. So if you're targeting prospects who are 20, 21, 22, closer to that range, I don't think that you're necessarily going to get the high-end blue chip types that that you're hoping for, unless it's a unique fit. Like, okay, maybe there's a scenario where with Colorado, for example, maybe they're willing to give up Alex Newhook because he fits Horvat fits a specific niche, and he's able, and they think that he's a lot, maybe they feel that they can even re-sign him. But I don't think there are going to be a lot of scenarios out there where there are a ton of teams who all of a sudden have 21-year-old stud right-handed defenseman who's ready to play next season and make an impact, and they're ready to give him up. I mean, we saw that with the Rangers with Braden Schneider.
You bring up like a 21-year-old right shot defenseman. I even think like that signals a retool. Could you imagine the Canucks though targeting like a 24-year-old right shot defenseman? Is that something you might see? Or are you really thinking that like 21 emerging into the NHL type of player instead of a guy who's maybe played a season and a half, maybe has 100 games under his belt, 24 years old, right shot defenseman that makes sense for Quinn Hughes to play with? Because that's kind of what I read a little bit out of this team wanting to
target
who's going to
give that up?
Yeah,
like if that guy, if you have a 24-year-old,
like they could just be a player that makes
but then they're not that good,
right? But that's
like the only reason you're going to acquire Horvat as like name an example.
Yeah, I'd have to
like there's the you know what I mean? Like the thing is like, okay, sure, like Minnesota, sure, I'm sure they'll be like, all right, you can have Matt Dumba. Why would the Canucks want Matt Dumba? Right. He's a lot older than 24. He's close to being a UFA, and he's just not going to shake up the look of this defense. I mean, the thing with the Canucks too is they don't have many pieces like Horvat where they can, like, this trade needs to set the Canucks up for the future. You need multiple core pieces back. And my worry is that the description of that sort of ask sounds pretty similar to what Jim Benning targeted in the Ryan Kessler trade, right? You get a young center, like not really young, but you got Nick Bonino back, who's in his mid-20s for help now. You got Lucas Spiza because you figured, okay, he's youngish, maybe he can help. You ticked off those boxes at center and on D, and then you got a first-round pick. You were too impatient with the first-round pick, so you dealt McCann away for Goodbranson. And at the end of the day, a trade,
the value in the end there,
you got nothing out of it.
Yeah, I think that's the interesting thing for me, and I wanted to bring this up too, was even where the Canucks might be at when they start to call it a rebuild, call it a retool, whatever you want to call it. I don't think they're at the point right now where they can sacrifice value for a position of need either. Like, listen, they need to add a center. They need to add right D, especially if you move Horvat. You specifically need something at center. And I'm not saying that, like, they should just like take the best winger possible, because I think you need to sacrifice a little bit of value for position in this spot. But I'm curious to get your thoughts on it of like, where do you draw the line of sacrificing value for position? Because I think like it doesn't need to just be trades that bring in right shot defensemen, because I feel like that's when their value on the market is at the highest. Instead, like, you should be, I don't understand why the Canucks, and you could pull this up, Alex, the defenseman drafted for the Vancouver Canucks. You need to start targeting like right shot defensemen and centers a lot more in the draft. So we're looking over the past, 6 drafts. The Canucks have drafted 4 right shot defensemen. And in total, they've drafted 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 defensemen total, left shot and right shot over the last 6 drafts. And it's a new management group. So look what they did in this past draft. 3 defensemen of the 6 picks that you make. I like that. I think you need to at least do that because defensemen are going to be so valuable. I think it's unfortunate they didn't draft a right shot defenseman. Look at the defenseman that they spent the last right shot defenseman they drafted. They traded him away. Victor Persson not really doing a great job in Liga this year. So like to me, it's almost to the degree of like when you talk about a first round pick, like with Lekkerimaki. Listen, he probably was at the time the consensus highest ranked player at 15. He was, you looked at whatever it was from anybody's like list. Most and you put them all together, he was the highest guy.
Even in the industry, NHL teams, I don't think most of them expected Lekkerimaki to be there at 15.
Yeah. And I think even like a month before the draft, he's coming in the top 10 in a lot of people's lists too. You do a lot more research kind of right before the draft and you start to see a couple things. He slid a little bit, but he was still a top 15 pick for sure. But to that point, like, I like the way that they went with the defenseman in the 3rd round. I just think that losing that value, you're losing instant value when you start to make a trade for a right shot defenseman when you can just draft them and hope. Like you should be drafting 5 defensemen every draft, and you should have like 2 or 3 right shot guys every single draft. Because their defensemen seem to be an interesting one, how they develop, how they gain value so much more than a forward gaining value as a prospect. And then you can start to just kind of like build up value in your prospect pool when it feels like the Canucks just don't have the type of players that look like they can build on their prospect pool. And this is kind of where it kind of rounds you out to the point where you're at right now of the Canucks looking now to make a trade for a right shot team or right shot defenseman. And a lot of teams that have right shot defensemen or who have been drafted right shot defensemen, they're sitting there now with these players that were maybe, I call it like a 5th round pick, feels like a bronze medal. It's not a big prize to give away. But now it's like if a right shot defenseman is developing right, now you're looking at a guy who's going to get you a lot more of a return. He's a lot more valuable than a 5th round pick. But if you're talking about just like position of need, puts such increased value onto these prospects that I don't think you should be trading for right shot defensemen. Like I think you should be drafting them full on unless you can really find a team that works. And this is what we're talking about. We're like, name a right shot defenseman that makes sense. Like it's really hard to name one. And now you have to give up Bo Horvat's value to acquire one. It feels like that's the road that they're like trending down right now.
Well, if that sort of piece is available as a prospect, then obviously I think it makes sense. You make that ask. I don't know how many of those guys are out there. I was more speaking to the right shot defensemen who'd be readily available, who are already 23, 24, 25, who'd be able to make a high end top 4 impact. Like, I don't think those guys, I don't think that's possible, to be totally honest. Could you get one as a prospect? Maybe. They're still in short abundance.
You brought up Minnesota, like Brock Faber's a name that we've already seen in the chat here a couple times. Like that's the guy who's going to be coming out of college this year going pro.
Yeah.
But Minnesota's not really in a great cap spot to be able to sign Horvat after this year. And I think that's type of value where you're going to get a prospect of Faber's level is to, be able to have a sign and trade situation with Horvat. And it just seems like Minnesota is going to be impossible to do that.
Yeah. My overall kind of takeaway is I don't think the Canucks should look at this and hope that they can swing a home run where they're going to acquire some kind of young player who is going to be, I don't know, provide the same level of Horvat, whether it's a forward or defenseman within the next 2 years. Like, I think if you go at it,
key point is the 2 years. What you just said, they're not finding a guy who's going to bring Horvat level change to your lineup in 2 years.
Look at how long it took Thompson to pan out in Buffalo in that O'Reilly trade.
Yeah.
You're gonna, in my opinion, to maximize your value, and unless if there are a few examples where it's like you can get Newhook, a 1st round pick package on that, absolutely. Like I think that'd be the best case scenario. Because I really like Newhook as prospect. I think he can go into top 6 piece. And yeah, he is able to contribute to your lineup right away. But I don't know how many scenarios there are. And when you step back, I just want them to chase upside because you're not going to have many more chances to swing for the fences and acquire an elite talent. I mean, I keep going back to the Thompson thing. He's 30 in the NHL in points. if you don't
I
draft
saw
those
you
guys,
tweet out something today about what he's done in the calendar year. Ridiculous.
He scored 50 goals in 76 games in the calendar year of 2022. You can't find those guys, those young building blocks. I mean, there's only two ways. You draft and develop them, which is usually how you find top 6 centers in general, or you swing for the fences when you have a really attractive trade piece like an O'Reilly or a Horvat. But here's the kicker: you're gonna have to be patient. No one's gonna give, like, if a team knows
the 22-year-old Thompson,
exactly. No. Like, if a team knows a guy like Thompson's ready to break out, like, why would you give him up for Rental and Bo Horvat?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the other thing. It's kind of like what I said with the slingshot. You want to pull it back because
that's a really good analogy.
You could miss the target the more you pull back, for sure. But if you pull back just the right amount, you're going to have a better chance of like hitting harder. That's what I think. But you could miss the target, right? And that's a risk you have to take. And that's where you have to trust your scouting department, your pro scouting department, come together and find these type of Tage Thompson. I'm not saying they're going to, but at least give yourself the best chance to find that type of player.
Whatever it is, the Canucks need at least one future core player out of this. I'm not talking, oh, this guy's a decent 4 or 5 defenseman, or okay, he's not a bad third line center, like a legit core player, like top 4 defenseman, top 6 forward, whatever the Canucks, like, they can't come out of this empty-handed the way they ultimately did out of the Kessler trade, for example.
Yeah, big time. I completely agree. And I even think that, listen, that first round pick, I think we've talked about this a lot. There's going to be a first round pick involved in the Horvat deal, unless there's this 23-year-old prospect, right, shot defenseman that you're talking, like, that we've discussed doesn't exist.
He's a unicorn.
If that guy's out there, you may be not getting a first round pick in it. But I like the idea of like taking a swing, right? Like, take the swing like the Jets just did with Brad Lambert, right? Like, use that second first round pick that you have to really take a swing, because this draft's going to be interesting to see who's around in the 25 to 35 range, because I think there's so much talent here that, like, you might be like, this is a good diamond in the rough of a first round pick to like go with. I know that a lot of people are like, yeah, it's going to be like a 30th pick, especially if it's like, the Avalanche, or say it's a really strong competitive team that trades for Horvat in the end. Like, the Bruins are rolling right now. Like, if you're getting a late first, like, I feel like this is a good draft for it, to think that the value feels a little bit higher than it would be in other years past, or at least other years coming up. But speaking of kind of like the package for Bo Horvat, I want to get to our next segment here. The good, great, or godly, it's supposed to say, but Alex is good, great, and golly. So Alex has already dialed in for the weekend. He's just like Quad, he's taking the day off. Our next segment, and I built this graphic here. Harm, I know you're not a big Pokemon guy.
Oh my goodness.
But I want to give the opportunities here for good, great, or godly returns for certain situations for the Canucks.
What am I looking at?
Do you know which Pokemon these are?
No.
So that's Machop, that's Machoke, and that's Machamp as they evolve from their first form to the third form.
Wow. That's incredible.
Zephyr Epic. They're going to love having their logo on this. Okay. Check this out on the YouTube, folks, for the podcast listeners. Let's get to it. 3 different situations. And we touched on this last week, and we'll start actually with the one that we did last week. And I felt like it was when we talked about Luke Schenn and the trade value for him. A good deal, a great deal, and a godly deal. And I think we talked about this. Hey, listen, a good deal is you get a 3rd round pick from Luke Schenn. A great deal is you get a 2nd round pick for Luke Schenn. I don't know if godly is even going to get you a first unless you're Stephane Roger, but the godly deal to me is like you get a 2nd and a prospect. So like a B-level prospect. How do you look at the Luke Schenn going good, great, and godly for the 3 possible returns?
I think you kind of nailed it. You kind of stole my thunder from the conversation we had last week.
Because I know you like to talk crap about Stephane too, Harm. I heard the Bandcast this week.
Come on, man. Stephane's a good dude. Don't rag on him.
He's a good dude. Well, he's okay. Quad's his favorite.
But yeah, I mean, you kind of stole my thunder. I'm not gonna lie. Like, so my big take, I was gonna swoop in and be like,
yeah,
your godly isn't even a 1st round pick.
I don't think that's it either. I think that's the interesting thing is like if you're trading it for a 4th round pick for Luke Schenn, maybe like things have fallen off and you're like, okay, you got the 4th out of here. It's still nice to add something because you're gonna lose him anyways.
It'd obviously be disappointing if it's just
exactly. It would be disappointing. So that's why I didn't put it in the good category. So let's talk about the Bo Horvat trade a little bit for a good, great, and godly return. We've touched on it quite a bit. So let's skip great here. Let's just do good and Godly. I think the Godly one we've already covered a little bit. It's new hook, it's a first, and whatever other piece to me, really, right? Like I think that's good value because
great package.
Yeah, you're getting a good prospect who's at the NHL level, who's got a ton of talent, local kid, first round pick as well, which I mentioned. Hey, maybe use that as like a big swing in this year's first.
And he could be a
round.
center.
Yep,
he's drafted as a natural center. I think he's got potential if he pans out to be a 2C.
Good BCHL kid as well.
Yeah,
I mean that's to me the Godly deal. What's a good deal? Because I think we can say like, hey, listen, if Horvat gets moved in the end for a second round pick and a half decent prospect, but at least he's a right D prospect, you're like, oh, okay, like that's fine. And that might be the route that the Canucks go if they really are targeting position. And this is why I say sacrificing value is going to hurt if you do put yourself into a spot where it needs to be this type of position player. So what's like a good deal? Just like, we're not talking great, we're not talking Godly. If you were to just put it out as a return, what's just like a good Bo Horvat trade? You look at it and you're like, okay, they got market value, maybe just a little bit above, because I think a lot of teams are going to be bidding. We had Frank on the show yesterday, and his last article with the trade targets list was begin the bidding for Bo Horvat, right? Like that's what the teams are going to start doing. He's saying yesterday on the show that teams are calling. So we do have some bids probably on the table already. What's one of the good ones right now?
So one comparable at the deadline last season, and Bo Horvat's better than him, was Andrew Kopp. He went for, there were a bunch of conditions involved, and I think New York had to get to the third round for that second round pick to become a first. But in the end, it was a first, a second, and Morgan Barron, who's a bottom six player who's helping the Jets right now as a young guy. So if you look at that kind of template, and maybe you'd argue that the Jets got more for Kopp than they initially expected, but I think from that perspective, you'd be hoping for an upgraded version of that as like a good, like nothing special, but good. So, the skeleton there would be a first. You'd want to upgrade the second to a better prospect, maybe.
Sure.
And instead of a bottom six sort of winger like Barron, you'd maybe hope that it's a third sort of roll of the dice, maybe on, an okay, like I don't know the best way to describe it, but like a B- sort of piece. Someone who's a little bit better than Jack Stadnicka. Like I don't think that's would be great.
I've seen the Island. Did you see the Islanders trade that was floating up by one of their blogs?
Yeah.
It was Bolduc was kind of an example of like a left shot defenseman. He's kind of B- to me, right? He's not.
Yeah, like that would be an example of like okay, like that's a good
better than
third piece.
That's a young player.
But by the way, that article, I don't know how many people saw it. The proposals didn't even include Ratty.
Yeah, the proposal.
Like, come on,
I'm bringing up the defensive that makes sense.
I know, yeah.
I think that is the type of thing where you do look at it and you say, listen, to me that's good to great if you get Ratty, Bolduc, and a first.
And
that's
there you
good
go.
To great territory.
Yeah, and with Ratty, that's an example of he's not going to help your lineup right away.
Right.
But he's got upside. He's got serious potential. And if your amateur scouting staff believes in him, because, there was a point where for that, what was he, like a 2021 draft pick?
Yep.
Yeah, like there was a time when he was expected to be a top 5, like in contention for number 1 overall.
Yeah, he was supposed to go number 1. Like when he was 16, very similar to Brad Lambert as well. Of just like this guy was going to go number 1. But that's why it was so crazy. I had a good conversation with Tommy, who covers, we see him in the press box covering for Finland over there. But like, it's weird that it happened back-to-back years where a guy completely fell off, one of the Finns players. But Ratty right now is playing in the AHL. He's got 5 goals and 6 assists. And that's good. He's 20 years old, right? Like he's a young player. You get him in your AHL system. He's one that I believe can play a little. I'm trying to remember the World Juniors last year if he was a center. I think he was. And I tell you what, he looked really good at the World Juniors just from like a play standpoint last year, where he had 3 goals, 7 assists in 10 games. So that's the piece, right? That's the player piece that you want to target.
I don't know Ratty's game inside out to be like, oh, like he's the guy that they should target. But you're
the type of guy, though.
The type of guy, right? Like in terms of pedigree, potential, talent, age. Like those are the sorts of boxes that you're hoping to check with one of your 3 pieces or whatever.
All right, let's get to another one here. A Brock Besser trade. Let's get the graphic back up here, Alex. I like that thing. I like it going on. The Brock Besser trade. Good, great, and godly. What's just good? What's just good for a Brock Besser return? Is it just getting the money off the books?
I think it's just getting the money off the books.
So having a return for Brock Besser
and not having to take money back outside of maybe in a contract that expires this season. Like, you know, if Calgary is really interested in top 6 winger and you have to eat Lucic's deal, who Lucic has been not very good for the Flames this season. A lot of Flames fans want him scratched, but his deal only runs through this year. So if you're the Canucks, and like that would be an example of a good deal, but not great.
You're taking that money, you got to get something else though, right? Because I feel like Brock Besser's not the type where if you wait a year, he's got absolutely no value. It's for some team to just take him on for like a risk of 2 years. If he's still playing in the Canucks in the top 6, like he has more value as this contract goes on, but he doesn't, like, it's weird to kind of say, but like his deal with 1 year left is better.
Oh yeah.
When there's 2 years left, it's better than now. But right now it's at its worst point because you're looking at the money that he's going to have to hit you for 3 years. When a year from now, it's only 2 years. And then 2 years from here, it's only 1 year. Like,
but even in the offseason, 2 years is quite a while. Like,
you're true. Yeah.
I don't know if that deal is going to be, if teams are going to be lining up necessarily to take that. So I think, I mean, here's the thing, like Lucic, it's just like half a season. Yeah. And the Canucks aren't going to do anything with that cap space this year anyway. So that would be an example of like, get that commitment off the books. Again, that's not great or godly because you're not getting really any return. But
I don't think it's good either, though.
But it's the cap space,
right? But I don't.
That's
think
a lot of cap room, man.
This is what I'm saying. It needs to be a good deal for Brock Besser. Is also is acquiring something right there. You're taking something that should have costed them a lot to get rid of. Right. That's the way I look at it. Like, you're taking the return that you're taking is a loss.
But someone could argue that Besser's a negative value asset right now too.
Sure. And I think with cap space and the effect to a lineup, you could say yes. Different role potentially where he does get back into a top 6, maybe not. And the team that's acquiring him is likely looking at that.
Okay, what if it's like a fourth
and Lucic for Besser? Yeah. I mean, that's still to me.
Again, we're not talking about great or godly, but the money. Like, I'll say this: I feel like if management had found a way to get off the deal without really, without taking money back or retaining or anything like that, I think they would have already done it.
I don't think that's a good deal long term. Even I don't think you need to move Brock Besser for the cap flexibility this year. I think waiting.
Well, I'm just talking about if you're making the deal now.
No, I know what you're saying.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying like you have to trade him, but if we're talking about what's a good deal right now today, then that, like, based off where his value's at today, which is at a low, that would, like, just getting off the money and freeing up that over $6.5 million for this season and next, help you resign Kuzmenko or whatever. Like, that's where it stands today.
See, that's the other part of the Lucic money coming back, is spinning that into multiple years of using that cap space. If you just like trade Besser for nothing, that's why I think you need something coming back. If it's like a player that you're taking money back on, even if it's just for one season, you're losing. It's not
even one. It's like a third of a season.
But what I'm saying is, like, this trade deadline, the Canucks won't be able to filter money because of that Lucic deal or because of the Brock Nelson money. Whoever the player that comes back is, you're losing an opportunity to access that for one season. That should cost a team that's trading for Brock Besser something. That's what I'm kind of saying.
That's fair. But again, I think the team would counter argue and say Besser's
signed longer.
Signed longer.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's why.
And he's not worth his deal either.
I'm feeling pretty neutral.
They would say bad money. Like, they would say, yeah, we're sending you bad money, but we're taking back bad money too.
That's why I'm interested to see if some team does believe it. Like, we've heard Montreal kind of talked about a little bit.
I think, look, if I was in Montreal shoes,
they make some sense.
I would be knocking and being like, all right, like, take the Dadonov or whatever. I'll take Besser. I'm not going to give you anything. But Dadonov's contract's up at the end of the season, just like Lucic. And I'd be like, all right, I'm gonna play Besser. He's gonna be my new Tyler Toffoli. They're so similar, right? I'm gonna play him with Caulfield and Suzuki. I'm gonna juice his value, play him on the first unit power play. We know Toffoli fit in their system, and it's a similar sort of player where it's like, can't really skate, smart offensive player who can finish.
And he'll put up points. He's putting up points this year.
And then in 2 years, when he's a rental, I'm gonna flip him for a second round pick plus. If I'm really lucky and I hit a home run, I mean, I don't think you'll get a first, but I'm still going to get a solid package.
And that might be the part that I'm maybe forgetting here, because I'm thinking like, hey, why wouldn't Vancouver do that? But like his agent's already been granted access to.
But it's also the opportunity cost of like you have to wait that long, and like you can't allocate that cap space anywhere. I wouldn't be necessarily opposed to waiting to see, but I mean, there is a real risk of opportunity cost where the Canucks don't have a lot of cap room, and look, there is a risk of what if Besser's always injury prone?
Yeah,
and
true.
what if he never regains that value? And even when he is a rental, at that point, like maybe a team will be like, like I don't really love him. You'll get a 3rd round pick. At that point, if you've held on to him that long, and you only get like a 3rd round pick at the deadline for him as a rental, you'd be like, oh, like damn, like I could have made more use out of that cap space doing other things the past 2 years. Like it's still a risk if you're, for example, in that Montreal example, like you're still rolling the dice
for sure. And the good thing is you're only rolling, like in that situation, you're only rolling the dice for 1 year. After that, you're like, whatever. Like whatever happens to Besser over there in Montreal, that's their problem or their success. You're kind of just getting off of it for 1 season. Like that's what the way that you're talking about, like one of these players coming back, that's how I look at it. It's like, okay, we'll take the L this year because we just signed this contract. We'll take the L, but hey, next season, let's do whatever we want. And that's kind of like, maybe the Canucks need to take more L's and understand the L's that they're taking moving forward. And that's kind of the way that I think you could learn something from the situation.
Anyways. And I think that's why the Canucks weren't in the offseason willing to take L's with their trades just for the sake of cap flexibility.
Right.
Like they didn't want to, I'm not saying this scenario was out there, but just as a hypothetical, they weren't going to move Connor Garland for like a 5th round pick just to gain that cap space.
Yeah.
And I think, we'll see now how their mindset perhaps shifts or changes. But I mean, I don't expect much coming back in a Brock Besser trade. It's really, you're doing it for the cap space.
All right. Let's get to another one here. Get the graphic back up there, Alex. People love the graphic in there. I'm seeing a lot of it's Harmander, Harmelian, and Harmzard, they're calling you. So at least you must know you must know Charizard.
Yeah, I do.
That's coming in the chat there. Next week I'll get a Yu-Gi-Oh mix for you.
Thank you.
But they don't have like evolutions. They have the, what's it called when they evolve into one and that's like the purple card?
I don't remember. It's been a long time since I played.
I know Yu-Gi-Oh guy. Well, maybe we'll get Exodia coming together. You don't know that either.
I don't know that either.
You don't know Exodia? I thought you were a Yu-Gi-Oh guy. All right. Good, great, and godly. Andrei Kuzmenko's future. What's good? What's great? What's godly? Is it a trade at the deadline for a big return, and you can tell me what that return you think it might be? Is it an extension that makes sense? What is a good, great, and godly for Kuzmenko? I'll start if you want.
Go.
I've sent you all these off the bat. I think taking a little bit of a risk on maybe a 4-year deal with lower AAV, and I don't know if that's in the 3s.
No,
if you're going 4 years,
no chance.
No chance. High 3s.
No.
3.8 for 4.
No,
he doesn't do that.
He's gonna slow down, but he's at almost a point per game.
Okay. What's a 4-year deal then?
It's a good question.
Maybe we should call Milstein real quick.
Ring. Ding dong. Yeah. I mean, like, look, nobody really knows at this stage, not even Milstein or the Canucks.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're just spitballing, at like,
I just like the idea of like taking a risk on this guy makes. Yeah, I guess with the cap going up too.
Like I don't know. If I'm Milstein, I'm like
4.
If you offer me 3.8 times 4, I'm hanging up on you, man.
Yeah, that's true. It might be the whole. Then we get a Horvat situation.
Screw you, get me out of here.
Yeah, because Michael's gonna have a statement next week. Okay, that was probably a little bit of a low ball, but let's say 4.8 times 4. I think Kuzmenko's looking at that.
Then
4.8.
You're at least making me think here. I'm not gonna hang up on you.
But then are the Canucks like? Is that too much of a risk though? Like $4.8 million on a guy who, he's produced well. He looks great. I mean, the fans love him.
You'd have to be confident you can move when a Garland.
To me, that's a good thing. 4.8 times 4. I think you're talking, okay, good. This guy plays with Pettersson. He works with Pettersson. He's the better version of Nikolai Goldobin, who worked with Pettersson.
Okay, he's not even really forget. Comp for why are you bringing Goldie?
Better version. I'll pull some cards here. I got the Goldie cards here.
He sucks.
Yeah, he was second best line mate Pettersson's ever had.
That means that would mean he's had no good line.
I remember early on when you and I didn't
Louis Eriksson was a better line mate.
You and I didn't talk as much as we do now.
Yeah.
But early on, I remember you in my DMs ripping me for all the like pro goalie stuff because you were explaining to me like on ice shooting percentage and all like these other analytics and stuff, and I just remember you ripping me a few years ago now.
I was just like, can't stand the fake news and the false narratives, man.
I know. Well, listen, you got to rep your guys, okay? Nikolai Goldobin rookie card here, beautiful. Couple different ones signed by Goldie.
It's an insult to Kuzmenko.
I said a better version. He's a better version of him.
Okay, well, like a lot better. They're not comparable in any sense other than them being Russian.
And both played good with Pettersson. But anyways, let's get past the Goldie talk. We already got. I thought Alex might make another change on the bottom. I was gonna say good, great, and Goldie actually in the end. But with a Kuzmenko, what's the godly situation? Is it returning a first round? Is that the best case scenario? Like returning a first round pick for Kuzmenko? Because like. Team's going to look at him and be like I think of the Oilers. Would the Oilers love to add the tap-in god to play with Connor McDavid on their power play? Of course. Would a lot of other teams look to add this guy and can hop right into your power play and also just the cap hit that he's going to have? Is that the godly situation? Like Canucks fans won't look at that as the godly situation, but will GMs look at that? And will Patrick Allvin look at that as the god? What is, from the Canucks point of view, do you think the godly situation?
Well, it depends on what their goals are in terms of their direction, because if they have any sense of trying to be competitive in the short term, then they're going to be of the mindset that, you got to resign him because of his fit with Pettersson, because of what you're going to lose Horvat and Kuzmenko. That's a significant blow to your first unit power play, which is one of the team's biggest strengths. Even at 5-on-5, like that's a lot of scoring that you'd be losing. But if you're of the mindset of a rebuild, which I think I'm definitely of the mindset that to see this team get back to an elite level, I think it's going to take ripping a lot of the guts out. I think it's going to take a lot of pain. I think it's going to take a lot of time. Well, if that's your mindset, then I think, you would, as painful as it is because of how much of a fan favorite he is.
Oh, see that smile? Somebody
and
said,
that smile.
Corey said that in here. No way you trade Kuz to the Oilers so he could beat you for the next half decade.
Well, you're gonna lose anyway. The Oilers are good. Like Oilers aren't even that good. I don't like they've mangled their McDavid Draisaitl situation. It's actually hilarious, but they're gonna beat the Canucks anyway for the next 5 years.
Yeah, that's
true. Like regardless of if they have Kuzmenko or not. But anyway, if you're of that rebuild mindset and you can get a first round pick
every night, like I remember that spot they took me.
But if you're in that rebuild mindset, then I mean you are like, look, the Canucks barely have any assets, and if you're rebuilding, the next 3-4 years don't matter. Being competitive over the next 3-4 years isn't your top priority. That means Kuzmenko isn't part of your his prime doesn't align with your window to win a Stanley Cup.
Right.
That means if you can get a first round pick, then you do it.
Yep.
So
in a rebuild situation, which a lot of people want this team to go in, you and I both being in that camp, I have to believe. I think I'm not speaking for you too much here in that, but it'll be interesting to see if they do, because
it's gonna be unpopular. I know people want him back.
Oh yeah,
I know people want him back,
and you know what comes with that? The goddamn letter that fans have been asking for from this team about a direction, because you release that letter. Then you trade Kuzmenko. Then people are like, okay, I get it. I get it, right?
Yeah, see, it would be the ultimate L, I think, to continue down this road of we want to be competitive short term and we're retooling this, and then go out and have to trade Horvat and then lose Kuzmenko for a less than stellar package.
Yeah, you better come out and tell your fans what's going on.
Yeah, and it's got to be like if you're going down that route, it's got to be a commitment to a rebuild. And that's how I kind of view it. It really just depends on what your view of fixing this team entails, and how much pain you think it's going to take, and whether Kuzmenko then aligns with that compared to the potential return he could net.
Well, you know who's fixing this team, Harm? Joni Jurmo, baby. Let's go. Pull it up, Alex. Alex, also while you're there, can you put Harm in the sleeper cam? I know that he's not going to be snoozing. I just want to see him in there. For a little bit, the Quads sleeper cam. I'll flip myself over here. Joni Jurmo scored a goal today in Liga as we get to our prospects report here. Nice little shot from the point. Good rip here. There he is. He's dreaming about quads. Arm is Joni Jurmo shot from the point. Game winner today in Liga, so big for him. He's getting a lot more minutes this year, kind of sitting around that like 18-minute per night. He's being trusted as a top 4, kind of as like the 3-4 for his Liga team, but the goals are there, the points are there. Not like to a ridiculous rate, not like he's no Philip Johansson or anything, but he's putting out the points. He's still just 20 years old. So nice to see from Joni Jurmo there. That's the only video I got for the prospect stuff today. But I quickly want to...
Is that because that's the only prospect the Canucks have? I'm kidding.
You know what? One of them. Let's get to some World Junior stuff. Sweden arrived in Halifax yesterday. So they're getting all set. They got pre-tournament play actually next week. Sweden's going to be playing USA on Wednesday, and they're also playing Switzerland on Friday. The Abbotsford Canucks, they play tonight against the Silver Knights. They play tomorrow against the Silver Knights, couple back-to-backs before they come back home for some games at the Abbotsford Center before Christmas there. And then the Canucks, Vancouver Canucks, they're facing the Winnipeg Jets Saturday night. So a little bit of a busy week. I'm getting ready. I got to go board a flight in about a few hours here. So that wraps it up for the weekend. Any closing remarks, Harm? I know you're gonna miss pickleball this weekend.
Yeah, I know.
I'm gonna miss it too. We're having
can't
a lot
wait
of fun
to can't wait to see all the Canucks' elite prospects play for Team Canada at the World Juniors.
Yeah, the Canucks Army commenters, all they want in there is maybe some good Canadian kids on the prospect pool.
Well, I don't blame them. I mean, like, this prospect pool is. I mean, look at Jack Rathbone, right? Like, he was one of your top 2 prospects going into this season.
Yep.
And look at him now.
Yeah, he's being outplayed by.
He's a good dude. I like as a person too.
I always say
sad,
that.
Man.
I know you want success for the good guys, and he's one of them. You want success so bad for him. So that's why I said on the show last week. I said, listen, I think you'd be happier somewhere else. I think you'd have a better opportunity somewhere else. I almost forgot. Betway. We got to get to our Betway bets of the day. Alex, pull it up. Noah Dobson. I got him over 2.5 shots tonight against the Coyotes. Playing the Coyotes, likely to get a lot of shots against them. So Dobson, he's done it quite a bit. And in his last 3 games, he hasn't hit the over. But in 7 of his 8 games before that, he hit the over. So I think he bounces back tonight against the Coyotes, gets 3 shots at least in this one. But I'm rocking with the Yotes. Last weekend, I think you were here when I gave my weekend update. I said, hey, listen, it's the Bruins, it's the Coyotes. Yeah. They're going to play. There's no chance the Coyotes are going to win. They end up winning. So that was ridiculous. So I'm rocking with the Coyotes tonight. Second Friday in a row. I'm not going to let the Coyotes fool me twice. They're winning again.
Okay, man.
Just so you know, Coyotes tonight. So I got the bet here, the over 5.5 total goals and them winning in regulation.
The over plus and regulation. Wow.
Yeah, big one today. So we'll wrap it up there. Want to say thanks to everyone for tuning in this week. Another great week here on YouTube as well as on the podcast. We're seeing our numbers jump up a little bit on the podcast as well. So appreciate all the new listeners coming in. I know that there was probably a lot of people just wanting to tune in and see the Bo Horvat statement stuff. That was an episode that did well for the Bo Horvat stuff on the statement. Harb, another week, another Friday here joining us here. Anything you want to say to the YouTube chat before we get out of here? They're all saying, here comes the money, there goes the money, all this stuff like that.
YouTube chat's always fire. That's all I'm gonna say.
It is. And thanks Lisa and a couple other people in there mentioning safe travels. Yep, off to some very cold weather in Saskatchewan for the next little bit. So we'll wrap it up there. Hit us with the SkyTrain cam there, Alex. We'll wrap it up here. For Harman Dayal, my name's Chris Faber. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Canucks Conversation. Off to Saskatchewan. See you later. Bye, Vancouver.
Thanks for listening to Canucks Conversation, delivered by DoorDash. Hit the subscribe button to never miss an episode.
How about keep it to a thank you, Jim?